Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most epic, sweeping narratives in all of historical theology. We are diving into the traditional doctrines of angelology and demonology. Now, right off the bat, we're not just talking about ancient myths or spooky folklore here. What we're actually looking at is a highly structured, historically grounded view of an unseen world, a hidden reality that has literally shaped human history and belief for millennia. So, let's get into it.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the nature of angels, look at the great cosmic fall, explore the mission of demons, uncover how demons operated in world religions, and finally, wrap up with human authority and defense.
Section 1. The Nature of Angels. Realm of Original Perfection. To truly understand the forces of darkness, we first have to understand the light from which they splintered.
Okay, so let's strip away all the pop culture fluff, the little babies with wings sitting on clouds. This foundational doctrine establishes a very rigid academic baseline. As theologian Wayne Grudem defines it, angels are created spiritual beings with moral judgment and high intelligence, but without physical bodies. So what that means is you don't just become an angel when you die. They are not glorified human spirits. They're an entirely distinct, incredibly powerful order of creation, fashioned at a specific point in time long before humanity even existed.
And these beings completely shatter the image of mindless automatons just blindly following orders. The classical texts are super clear here. They possess intellect, deep emotions, and a will. They are free moral agents capable of choice. We're talking about beings with mighty superhuman strength who are completely distinct from humanity. They don't reproduce, they don't die, but the most crucial part, their joyful obedience to their creator is an expression of what theologians call dynamic holiness. They actively, constantly choose to do good.
But because they possess that free will, a time of testing had to come. Morality really has to be realized through choice, right? While the vast majority chose the Lord's side, eagerly executing the divine will as holy messengers, a really significant portion made a dramatic pivot. They became prideful rebels. They actually originated evil in the universe. And because of that, they were permanently stripped of their heavenly estate.
Which brings us right into Section 2, the Great Cosmic Fall, the inciting incident. This is the ultimate turning point in our cosmic history. Just look at this classical woodcut. The sheer scale of this event is totally apocalyptic. Blinded by pride and this overwhelming desire to elevate his own throne, Lucifer led a massive faction of angels into a literal war in heaven. And the result? Total, crushing defeat. They were violently expelled from the heavenly heights and cast down to earth. And those fallen entities? Those are the beings we now know as demons.
Now, over the centuries, people have come up with some wild theories about this. Were demons the wandering souls of wicked dead men? Were they some sort of pre-Adamic race? The strict biblical doctrine completely shuts that down. It plainly states they are those angels who followed Satan at his fall. Demons are fallen angels, period. They are the exact same species as the holy angels, just entirely corrupted by their own tragic choice.
Moving on to Section 3. The Mission of Demons, the Antagonist's Campaign. Because once they were cast down, they didn't just sit around and accept their fate.
They actually embarked on this dark, ongoing campaign against humanity. Their mission on Earth is basically relentless sabotage. Operating under Satan, they use their massive intelligence to tempt, deceive, and inflict real suffering upon the physical world. The source texts literally map out their tactics for us. They are believed to cause physical illness and disease. They tempt believers to lie and sin. They constantly accuse and slander us. They try to hinder the work of the righteous. They sow counterfeits and deceit, and they incite global chaos. It is a highly organized, malicious insurgency against the Creator's design.
And you can see exactly how historical grimoires visualize this deep corruption. On the left here, we have Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies, depicted as a monstrous insect. And on the right, a bizarre chimera spewing fire. The whole idea is that the once pristine, radiant beauty of these angels was twisted into unclean, monstrous forms. The outside perfectly mirrors their newly wicked, chaotic nature.
This brings us to Section 4, Demons in World Religions, Deceptive Infiltration. Because this deception scales up in a massive way when we look at human cultures.
This is where things get really fascinating, and it's a staggering paradigm shift for how we view history. Early Christian figures, specifically like Justin Martyr, caught something incredible. The polytheistic gods of the ancient world, the deities of the Greeks, the Romans, the Babylonians, they weren't just imaginary myths or bad science. They were actually demons masquerading as gods.
Justin Martyr noted, "They deceived the Greeks with their displays, in order that we should not ascend up thither from whence they fell. They demanded illicit worship out of sheer envy, specifically, to keep humanity out of the heaven that they themselves had lost."
By showing off supernatural powers or manipulating natural elements, these fallen angels effectively hijacked humanity's innate spiritual drive. They literally stole the reverence meant for the Creator. This is an absolutely crucial concept in historical demonology. Idolatry isn't just primitive people being confused by thunderstorms. It was viewed as a carefully orchestrated deception by highly intelligent spiritual beings looking to be worshipped.
And that brings us to our final point. Section 5. Human authority and defense, empowering the protagonist. Because despite the terrifying scope of all this, humanity is not left defenseless.
The tide completely turns here. Just as Christ and the early saints are depicted exerting absolute authority over the demonic realm, healing the possessed, casting out unclean spirits, historical doctrine teaches that humans can actively resist these unseen foes. We are not just helpless pawns on a cosmic chessboard. Armed with faith, we possess real spiritual authority.
In fact, the theological sources outline a very precise 4-step defense strategy. Number 1, have a proper attitude toward the adversary, respectful of their power, but fearless. Number 2, be on guard and endlessly watchful for their deceptive tactics. Number 3, take a firm stand and actively resist. As the scripture says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. And number 4, use the spiritual armor of God. The big takeaway here? Demons are incredibly powerful, yes, but they are strictly limited creatures. They aren't omnipotent, and when properly resisted, they have no choice but to flee.
So, let's wrap up this explainer by zooming out for a second. Think about the epic scale of this doctrine and how it fundamentally shifts the way we view our everyday struggles. If what these historical texts claim is true, that an unseen, highly intelligent force is actively working to deceive, divide, and destroy, how does that change your perspective on the conflicts, the temptations, and the pure chaos we see in the world right now? It definitely makes you look twice at the forces operating just behind the veil of our physical reality. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. See you next time.